Hello and welcome to the first of 4 Sunday morning sessions of Cryptomancer. Cryptomancer is a game written by Chad Walker, primarily as also with Timid Robot Zeta, and the cover art is by a guy named Cruz, and is one of my favorite cover images of all time because it uses an interesting color scale. So this is the first of 4 sessions. We have pre-gens we're going to be working with today, but this is still kind of a session 0 as we get our legs under us regarding the setting and regarding the mechanics, because they're not PBTA, they're not a particular D20 system. This is a unique system with a certain set of principles to it. If you're watching this, this is part of the Gauntlet Hangouts. The Gauntlet Hangouts is an online gaming community. We have a number of games on the calendar for a month. I think we've got like 150 on the calendar for February, which is a short month, which is insane. You can find out more about that community at gauntlet-rpg.com. We also have a monthly zine via our Patreon. We have multiple podcasts, and we have a blog. One of the things that you can find on the blog, if you're interested in actual play videos, if you're watching this and you're interested in that, is we do a weekly roundup of the various people who have recorded and posted their games. There's a lot of interesting things on there. So let me talk a little bit about Cryptomancer and what this game is, and what the sort of principles involved are. We have a thing in the Gauntlet called CATS, which is about concept, approach, tone, and subject matter. I'm going to sort of follow that here. My players have already received a setting background sheet and a cheat sheet on the mechanics, but I want to talk briefly about what this is. This is a fantasy world, classic fantasy world. We've got elves, we've got dwarves, we've got humans. They are operating within this world, but it's a world that has been shaped by the development of a very particular kind of advanced communication system via these magical shards that have certain principles of how they operate, certain rules about how they're connected that have changed the world. In particular, changed the world because that, in combination with the fact that everyone basically has access to magical encryption. Everyone has some basic access to it. Everyone has a soul key, and everyone has a true name. And those two together form a perfect cryptological thing. But there are lots of other principles about magical cryptography, about how people encrypt messages and things like that, that in combination with this communication have changed the way the world operates. So we have a very interconnected world with effectively an internet and effectively rapid communication of information across it. This has changed the world. It has also permitted the rise of certain tyrannical factions, in particular the group that we're going to talk about in a second, the Risk Eaters. So this is a fantasy world. It is not Cyberpunk Shadowrun. It is closer to a classic D&D world with some principles laid on it. One of the things that means is I'm very much used to running PBTA and 13th Age and games like that, where we build our setting, where the setting is collaboratively built, fleshed out. Or even games where there is an established setting. I'm used to playing loose and not having too much setting information known. This game does have some basic principles about how communication and technology work that the players need to know. So that's one of the things that's different, and we're going to try and work through that as we play today. Our characters are members of a cell. They are on the run. They are evading a group called the Risk Eaters. The Risk Eaters are the Illuminati of this world. They have figured out how to create predictive engines to plan out their planned future for the world, and they can predict problems. And for whatever reason, our characters have all popped up on the radar and have been put on the run. Maybe they actually did something, or maybe they were going to do something in the future. But for whatever reason, our characters are on the run from this shadowy organization behind the scenes. So what our characters are doing is they are trying to survive, but they're also trying to carry out operations and plan missions to fight back against the risk eaters. And that's the primary thing that we're going to be dealing with, is those kinds of jobs, those tasks, and that opposition. The tone of this is a little up for discussion. It's probably going to be gritty, but not grim. And we can talk about whether this is more Born Identity or more Dragon Heist. Whether this is leaning towards leverage or something significantly darker. But we'll come back and talk about that in the lines and veils and tone discussion. What we're going to be doing, the subject matter, is problem solving, it's investigation, it's planning, and it's very much teamwork. The baseline that the game has that we're going to be playing with is that our characters know each other, they trust each other, and they have worked together. So our baseline is cooperation between the characters. So that's going to be really, really important, is one of the tonal things that we're going to be focusing on, because without that, the cell can't function. So that's one of the guiding principles for play here. Now, before I kind of go into the lines and veils and our safety tools, do any of the players have any questions before I move on from what I've said already? I want to do any kind of check-in. Okay. All right. Then I'm going to move on. This is part of the Gauntlet Hangouts, so I know everyone here is familiar with the X card. That's the basic safety tool that's on the table, and that can be for subject matter, for content. It can be for tone. You can X card that, and then we'll roll back to that. It can be about plot decisions that might impinge on your character. Jim Crocker, in our last game, had a very good point when a particular development was going to kind of change his character's autonomy, and he was good about X carding that and talking about his reasons for it. You don't have to explain if you X card. I may ask you for the frame of it, and we'll move past it. The other thing I want to mention is, if we hit something that, like the first couple of times, you're like, oh, okay, I can handle that, and then later on, it starts to bug you. Just because you haven't X carded earlier doesn't mean you can't X card it later. Just remember that is on the table at any point that you're uncomfortable with something. And so that's an important piece that we have here. Now, I want to talk about lines and veils, meaning things that we definitely don't want to have, or things that we want to fade to black on in the course of this game. There's some classic ones that we go with. I've mentioned one, that PC betrayal is a line. We're not doing that. That is kind of off the table as an X-carded thing. The other thing I want to mention, because I think this is really important, especially in a game that deals with espionage or anything like that, is no torture. Torture is not a thing. Torture doesn't work. It is reasonable in the genre to threaten, like grab a guard and threaten to make them talk, but dealing a physical pain, emotional pain, torture, anything like that, for me is absolutely off the table for any number of reasons. So I just want to say that. I don't usually impinge ahead of time, but I think because of the subject matter, I want to make that clear up front what my position is on that. Patrick, let me ask you if you have any particular lines and veils that you'd also want to put on the table to keep in mind.
I generally don't like to see any violence, especially graphic, to animals on screen.
Okay.
And to be clear, since this is a fantasy setting, like monsters are different than animals.
Okay.
It's a very selfish human, I like cute animals thing. So the more spikes they have, the more like zombie red eyes they have, the more okay I am with it.
Okay. That seems like a fair choice there. Brian, I don't think I've played with you before, Brian, have I?
I don't think so.
Okay, awesome. Well, it's good to have a chance to play with you. Do you have anything that you definitely want to put as a line or a veil for the game?
No, not personally.
Okay. I always want to check in, and if something does occur, we can put it on that list later. Sherry, anything you want to add?
At this point, no. There's nothing in particular that, well, actually, Patrick covered the one thing that I have a certain amount of trepidation to. I'm not keen on horrible violence to children as well, but
okay. That seems fair. And Alejandro, do you have anything?
No, explicit like sexual content, but I don't think we're going to go there.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, veil. We can veil that. We don't need to go into detail. That's it.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. With that in mind, I want to briefly talk about the system, just to talk a little bit about the mechanical side of things. On your character sheets, you have these big numbers under wits, resolve, speed, and power. Those are not numbers you roll. Those are numbers that are your target numbers when somebody goes to affect you. So those you don't have to worry about. What you worry about are the little numbers underneath there, like knowledge, cunning, presence, agility, dexterity, those numbers. Basically, when you go to do a test, you'll be rolling 5 dice. And for example, let's say it's an agility test. And so we look under Rook, and Rook has an agility of 3. That 3 means that of those 5 dice, 3 of them are going to be D10s. And the remaining 2 are going to be D6s called fate dice. When you roll those dice, you'll be looking for a particular target number. That number will always either be 4, 6, or 8, meaning, essentially, those are the defined levels of success. If you roll that number or above, it's considered a success on the die. Any 1s on the dice are considered botches, which will negate a success. If you've played old school Storyteller, you know how painful that's going to be. Any 1s or 2s on the D6s are botches. But a 6 on the D6 is always going to be a success. It's always going to be, even if the difficulty is an 8. And that's the basics. You are looking for a success. That's what you're looking for is one success. The more successes you get, the better off it is. You have the opportunity to generate risk for the group, which means essentially overall threat for the group, by changing botches and essentially eliminating them. Each botch that you want to negate generates 1 point of risk, and that's on a scale of 1 to 100. And that will get generated. And essentially that's a session roll to see whether bad guys come after you to murder all of you. And that number never goes down. Unlike Blades in the Dark, it never goes down.
But just real quick, on the cheat sheet, it looks like it said that you don't negate the botches, you actually turn them into successes.
Yes, you convert those botches as successes. I'm sorry, I forgot that. So it is a net gain of 2, essentially, because you're negating the -1 and you're changing it to a success. So that investment is a significant payoff. Yeah, thank you, Brian. But that's the basic stuff. That mechanic we're going to be working with. It is can be a challenge to roll on the Roll for Your Party, but I've generated sets of dice there, and we'll play around with that. I will say when we play this the first time, it took us a little bit to get used to that system. So this is a world. This world has dwarves. They live in classic underground steads. They're the builders. They used to be a great warrior race of builders, but they become less and less that as they become industrialists, and they live in their underground areas of the subterra. And then you have the elves. The elves live in the woods, and the woods comprise the vast, landscape outside, with great areas that have been destroyed because the elves have been using those woods to create a thing called soma, which is a powerful a drug with multiple purposes, including it being a euphoric, and it is a creation process that requires the destruction of great acres. And so the elves, who were once the caretakers of the woods, have become, they spread the forest, but they also destroy it at the same time. And then finally, humans. They are in city-states that are connected across this world, in forests, by mountains, by the lakes and seas, all over this world. And there is a strong networked system of communication and trade between all of these places, between these peoples. There is tension between them, but everything is very much interconnected at this point. There is no central human empire. It is very much city-states with local nobility, perhaps regional nobility, and lords within particular areas. So, with that in mind, and with the sense that you are on the run, that something has happened to you, you've chosen your pre-gens. So I want to have you tell me how you're picturing your pre-gen. Maybe we can talk a little bit about how you imagine that they got into this mess. And then I'll, if you have any questions about talents or anything like that, I can also answer those at that point. As I do, I've started a particular order of asking questions. I will stick with that order of asking questions. I will change that so Patrick will not be first next time. But here we go. So Patrick, you chose. How do we want to say your name?
Daneric, I think.
Daneric, okay. And that first name is your public name, and the one in parentheses is your true name. So that's why that's there.
So give it out to everyone I meet.
Oh, absolutely. You should absolutely do that.
Cool.
So tell me how you're picturing Daneric.
So I've got a picture down at the bottom. He's sort of rough looking. I tried to find a dwarfy picture that was a bit more urbane than your normal, like 3 feet of beard and metal everywhere dwarf. But he's definitely still had like a fighting life. He's got a bit of a beard. I wasn't quite sure from the descriptions I read whether when they talked about like the newer dwarves sort of eschewing the beards, whether it was like clean shaven or whether it was just they don't go for the like floor length beards, or I don't know. But he's somewhere in a little bit of a beard, but not fully modern, not fully traditional sort of thing.
Well, then let's establish that as the sign of the more modern dwarves are they have a beard, but it is close shaven. A barefaced dwarf doesn't exist, but certainly more of a shadow beard than a full one. Okay,
cool. I was sort of curious about a couple of things
Sure.
here. Under my fears, it lists ghosts. Is there anything in the setting about ghosts that would be significantly different from your like D&D bog standard?
No, it is very much classic ghosts, classic vampires, that kind of thing.
Okay.
But here's the thing: is that's a background thing that we can change. That one is flexible. What do you think?
No, I mean, I like that. I was just trying to get a sense of, is it like a modern day person's fear of ghosts, where it's like there might be ghosts, or like a D&D person's fear of ghosts, where there are definitely ghosts and that guy can summon them.
Yeah, I think it's definitely the latter. Though I think there are also superstitions about things like when a person dies and they're on a shard net, maybe their soul gets caught in there and then they haunt the shard net.
Oh, that's so good. I like that. Because I liked him because he has, some of the shard magic and that shard warp, the ability to travel through them. Yeah, I can definitely see that coming out of like strange experiences in the in-between space and things that are still floating in the shard nets and the shardscape. Cool.
And yeah, and any particular shard net, it comes from one original big crystal that gets cut into pieces, and then all those shards communicate with one another. It takes somebody holding two shards to link shard networks. So each one is their own little universe there. So when you find a shard, you're like, okay, what's going on with this? They're also expensive.
Yeah, they talked very specifically about handedness in using the shards. So is there a limit at like you can hold one shard in each hand and that's it, or could you like hug a whole barrel full of shards?
No, you can hold one shard in a hand to communicate with it. However, if you want to encrypt something, you actually have to touch it with the other hand and essentially use that to inject the code phrase. So clear communication that anybody can read on the shard requires one hand. Two hands if you want to be certain that who you're sending it to is going to get it.
Cool. I think. Oh, and just briefly, the shard warp ability, is that like personal only? Could I carry other people with me?
That is personal only.
Cool. And then I'm just gonna. I have so many questions.
Please, no, that's what we're doing. We're going to go through our characters here to ask about that.
So the sub skills that are listed under the skills, which are listed under the stats.
Yes.
What am those?
Those are if any of those skills that are listed, you can attempt to roll on based on your stat number. The only reason some of them are highlighted, like you have alchemy highlighted, it means that you have a talent related to it.
Okay. So
otherwise, there's no skill levels or anything like that.
Gotcha. So it's mostly just like a breakdown of what agility does or what dexterity does.
Yes, absolutely.
Cool. Love it. Into it. I think that's all my questions at the moment.
So what do you think? Well, I've got two questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
What do you suppose your walking lab looks like? You've got a little walking alchemical lab. What do you suppose that is like?
I like those. Okay, so having grown up in the Episcopal Church and seeing some of the like formality, I always really enjoyed the like traveling communion kits or the like traveling priest kits, where it's like a little, it's a somewhere between a small box to a briefcase size thing, and you open it up and there's all these like specially shaped holes, and it's all like lined in like velvet or something to keep everything in there. There's all these little vials and everything has its little place, and they're just like mini tiny versions of what you would normally use. I love that whole vibe.
Okay, absolutely.
So I think it's something like a small briefcase thing, probably a wooden clasped box, and there's like all sorts of fanciness inside.
Awesome. And you've got Dissemble, by the way, which is a really both wonderful and scary a spell where
That
you can
was
encrypt someone's appearance,
Yeah,
including
that was
your
a
own.
creepy ass picture in the material, but I loved
Yes.
it.
Yeah. So what do you think happened? How did you get on the list for the Risk Eaters? Do you think you still don't know, or was there something that you did to that put you on their radar?
That was something I was curious about.
Mhm.
Were we as a group put on the list together, or are we all like individual refugees that have run across each other and we bound together because of that?
I think the latter. I think that you have your own stories about how you came to be on the list, and we're going to hand wave how you came to meet in a little bit of ways, but we are going to do some relationship building in a sec.
Cool. I think he's been interested in, worked in like experimental cryptography, like expanding the bounds of magical crypto stuff and incorporating like physical, mechanical, possibly mathematical cryptographic ideas into it. And so I imagine it was like I stumbled into an experiment or a situation. Like I ran across in my search for my own knowledge, I ran across someone else's project knowledge, something like that they were a lot further along and backed by people that are now after me or something.
Perfect. Essentially, you push too far into areas that they want to control.
I delved too deep.
You dug too deep. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you, Patrick. I'm gonna move on. Brian, why don't you tell us about Deltra?
Deltra, young woman, grew up very poor and is only brought herself out of poverty by becoming a thief or a spy for hire, I guess, as well. I think she it's one of those people who kind of cultivates being very forgettable and being able to just kind of blend into a crowd.
Do you have any questions about your talents or your spells?
I had one. Let me find it. It was the glamour spell.
Mm-hmm.
So you could transform into someone else, but it also says you can change a number of physical characteristics equal to the successes rolled. Is that meaning like your stats, like your? What does it mean by characteristics?
What that means is the glamour has the effect of an illusion for someone, but you can also do it such that, like, let's say you wanted to have that you were going to be a taller character or a heavier character, that you could actually change those physical features and how those interact with the world in that way. I don't think it changes your stats.
Okay. So is it like either you're copying a specific person or you're just choosing a particular number?
You can cannot replicate the exact niceness, but it can come close. So I think you can do a generic figure. I look like generic elf, or if you've seen someone, you can copy them fairly close.
So by transform into someone else, it basically says that means like your face. Essentially, they're saying like give yourself a different face, and then for however many other particular characteristics you could also change.
Right. So we've got maintained. So yeah, use physical characteristics. It said to swap your gender or things like that to cover over.
That makes sense. Okay, that's the only one I think I had a question about.
And you're probably, it looks like you've got, you're the sniper character with the crossbow. Okay. And I'm looking, I always like to look over things. So, how did Deltra get tied up in all of this?
I imagine that Delta has no idea, and I think maybe it isn't something she stole. It's something that they have predicted she will steal.
Mm-hmm. But you were already kind of in the shadows before that, right? What had been the last few years before all this happened? What has Delta done?
I think just whatever pays the best. I don't think she was that picky about what job she took or.
So spy, thief, that kind of thing. Okay. And then went on the road. She grew up poor. How did she come into this skill set?
I think she was probably taught by her older siblings who went into it first.
So you have or had family that were also essentially, trained thieves or spies, and you followed in their footsteps?
Yeah.
Are they still alive?
Some of them.
Okay.
Definitely not all of them.
And do they think you're alive? The ones that are?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That gives me stuff to work with. Thank you. Let's come to Rook. Sherry, tell us how you are picturing Rook.
I think, well, one of the things that I note is that she's afraid of nobility and Soma. And we talked about these networks, and there's definitely a whole thing with the powerful of the humans trying to control the populace with the shards and shardscape and all of that stuff. So my guess is that she grew up in a household as a servant, and that she actually probably served, like, taking care of the people who had the shard talents for that industry, essentially the people that they had working for them.
So the crypto classic is a crypto admins and
Yes.
those people that handle those things. Okay.
All right. And so she did this, like, she started when she was a child because they didn't want people who knew what was going on to be in the middle of that, right? So they would use children or people that they thought were, how do you say, addled or that sort of thing. And so, but one of the things is that the crypto admins kind of watched out for her, particularly as she got a little bit older because she was attractive. And so they were the first ones to teach her, like, that maze thing and stuff like that. And that, in fact, when she actually had to go onto the run, it was sort of after a big blowout, because one of the ways they controlled some of those guys was they kept them, they made sure they had enough Soma to not want to leave. And when they got addicted, they really yanked their chains and stuff like that. And so I think she probably first got in trouble trying to get Soma to someone that they were withholding it from or something like that, like trying to move that around and then having to run away. But at that point, she didn't really understand the massive scale of what they were up to. But those people, those nobles, were on her tail to begin with, and then it's just been the risk eaters then after a certain point. It was like just this sort of continuous thing from the time she was like 12 or 13.
Oh, wow.
Being
Okay.
chased. Yeah.
Do you have any questions about your talents or spells?
Well, the one that I have is the maze. So I think that's probably where a lot of it is, but she's also got a lot of seeing and knowing, like she can see the magic, she can, and she has a little bit of mind read or psychometry. Now, I'm a little vague on what soma is. Is it just an opiate or is it got some magical properties?
So I'm going to give you the long spiel because it's crazy.
Okay, good. This is the best kind of thing then. All right.
So there are these things called gigaphids. These are
Yes.
giant bugs that the elves fly, and that have been around. And the gigaphids are one of the means that people that traverse long distances and things like that. So gigaphids, when they will breed, they go and lay eggs in these elven trees. And then those eggs will hatch, and they'll eat, draw the essence from that tree, and then those gigaphids will come out, and they will, grow up. Then, at some point, and this is how the book puts it. At some point, somebody said, "Hey, what happens if we seal up so they can't get out?" And what happens is, in fact, that those eggs, they will hatch, and one of those gigaphids will consume the others, and will also stay in a kind of a weird larval state. And then, because it can't get out, it will draw all of the energy and life and so on from the area around it. So it doesn't just kill the tree; it kills all the trees in the surrounding area. And then at a certain point, they bust that open and they make that into soma. I wanted to tell that story because that is particularly horrific. But it is a spice in certain forms. In its direct form, it is an opiate, a powerful addictive thing. It is not in and of itself magical, but that process is just whack, as the kids would say.
And I assume the effects are particularly powerful in the sense of once addicted, there's no going back.
Right. I think particularly based on the purity, the dilution of the original material. I think people probably, in a very diluted form, probably take it like absinthe and don't form an addiction. But probably then the stronger is what causes that. You've got some good stuff. You've got some bombs, I noticed there too.
Yeah, I just figured she's been in the business for a while. You know what I mean? So she's been doing this, collecting stuff that she might need on an off chance.
Where did you get your named club?
Oh, I think that within the group of the resistance, that there's a certain cachet that goes along with that kind of how do you say, bravado.
Mm-hmm.
And because she's a little thing, this would be truly hilarious. She's not very strong. She's not particularly a fighter. She's looks like a little cutie.
Mm-hmm.
But if she's got a named club and swings it around when everyone's drunk and stuff, it's hilarious. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely.
It's an endearing attribute she has.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you very much. That brings us to Alejandro. Alejandro, tell us about how do you want to say that?
Her name?
Yeah.
There's an H in there?
Yeah.
But I don't like the sound of that. Aka.
So just Aka? Okay.
No. I'm hoping we can switch it to an N and have it be Anka.
Sure, absolutely.
More of a ring. Yeah. Okay.
Please.
I also have a question. My character's desires are anarchy and helping the needy, and the fears are peasants and dwarves. Dwarves make sense. That's a standard trope. But if her interest is anarchy and helping the needy, Why does she fear peasants?
I don't know. That's a good question. Is it that she morally wants to help the peasants, but she doesn't want to get dirty? I mean, that's entirely up to you. And these desires and fears are from the pre-gens. If you want to change them around, I'm good with you tweaking those too.
Could we can we change it from peasants to like mobs or something?
Yeah, sure. That sounds good. Yeah, like big mobs, groups, things like that. I can see that perfect.
Yeah, yeah. Well, chaotic groups.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, the other thing is her desire is anarchy. So are we talking about like the anarchy, like Sex Pistols, just let's burn this shit down? Or are we talking anarchy like the Clash, where it's like let's build commune societies and anti-hierarchical societies? It's like, so is it the more academic anarchy, or is it the more colloquial?
I suspect the latter, because you are working with a group. I think that you would like to bring the system down.
Yeah.
But you're not about full on chaos necessarily.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. That's kind of how I was viewing it. So I noticed that some people have highlighted little sub skills, like Rook has deception and charm. Is like, what is, because mine doesn't have any, but everybody does have some.
Yeah.
And
so what you've got is you've actually got acrobatics, athletics. I've kind of got those marked. What that means is
I marked.
Oh, you marked them yourself? Yeah. Then I should have marked definitely acrobatics there. What it means is that they have a talent associated with that particular skill. Like, for example, the reason that a Rook has deception marked is because she's got an ability that allows her to ignore botch with deception. It's just a reminder to you that you have a talent down below.
Okay. 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 Then everybody here has magical abilities, right?
Yep.
So magic is just generally common. You know, it's not like is it that we're special, or is it just it's kind of ubiquitous?
I think it's that people who are people who are intelligent and are ambitious have access to it. It isn't held away necessarily in magical schools and towers. It doesn't mean that the average citizenry peasant not necessarily knows magic, but that people who want to know magic can learn it. That it is, accessible and around.
Okay. All right. So, and then she has a familiar. How do familiars work?
So I've seen it done a couple of ways. Basically, what you've got is a little goblin that is a familiar, and these are sort of cunning animal intelligence. So you can, give it orders to go and run and grab something. You can give it orders to go and look around, and come back to you and tell you very basic things. And you aren't connected, like there is a bond between you, but it isn't like if someone kills your familiar, you're going to take damage or anything like that.
Okay. So I view it more, the relationship more of like the way we have dogs now, except for that it's a little bit more trained, a little bit more.
Right. I'm picturing the ferrets from Beastmaster. That is my touchstone for that.
I haven't seen Beastmaster since it came out. So it's been a while.
A classic of trashy fantasy.
Yeah.
But yeah, essentially a small animal with a little more ability to manipulate, because it has little hands and stuff.
Yeah.
That you can give basic orders to.
Okay. So if you look down, and I have this character of this like kind of gothic punk type. almost a like overdone mohawk type thing with the sides shaved, and then a little goblin on his shoulder. Or
I
her.
like it.
Yeah, or her actually. So she's pretty rough and tumble, I guess, since she has death from above and pole vaulter. So she's pretty masculine in her kind of bravado and that kind of stuff. I would say that she actually was, her family is like a wealthy elite type. And so she has that access, like maybe they're just like a really highly successful merchant family. But she's against that. She's really like kind of, because of her nature, most people think that she grew up in the streets, and she kind of did grow up in the streets. She always chose to go out and always came back late and was always in trouble. Was definitely the black sheep. She like really identifies with the lower classes more than she does with the higher classes. But she knows her way around the high class.
So let me ask you, what is it? What do you think happened that made you have to go on the run, and made you have to go into hiding? What is it? Something that you particularly did, or are you still not sure why the risk eaters are hunting you?
My family. Maybe my family, like it's a merchant, but they're kind of like a mafia type like family. And she overheard something that she didn't quite understand, but she had to get the hell out of there.
Okay.
And so I think it's she has some sort of information or something that is challenging or threatening to somebody, and
so at first it appeared to be just a secret in your family, but it's clear since then that it was something larger. Okay. That makes sense to me. I like that.
And so just last thing, she knows how to live on the streets, and she prefers living on the streets. So, yeah, go ahead.
That makes sense to me. Let's do establishing connections. I just want to do a quick relationship question, and we're just going to link you to one other character. And I'm going to kind of go reverse order here. So Alejandro, I'm going to start with you. And I'm going to ask you this question. Rook reminds you of someone from your past. She reminds you of someone from your past. Who is that? And how might that make things weird?
Okay, before we do that, can I
Sure.
ask a shard question?
Absolutely.
So the worldwide shard net does not exist. They're all like local or like shard area networks rather than.
No, there is a larger one. There is most shards are on a particular like narrow network. There is a massive shard, a meteorite that landed some time back, that was broken up into these larger pieces and were taken and split up and sent around the land. And that massive shard is the shard net. It is called the Shardscape, and that's the sort of big, broad World Wide Web. You don't have like an individual shard to connect with it. You have to go somewhere to touch it, to connect to it, in the essentially equivalent of a library or a public space, to connect onto that.
Okay. All right. So do I know Rook, or
Absolutely. We're starting with the assumption that all of you have known and worked with each other.
Okay, because you said that she reminds me of somebody. So
yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna say that I know Rook just from my background. She served one of the families that my family dealt with or worked with. Maybe not extensively, but to some degree.
Sure. But the question is a little bit different than what you're answering there. So I just want to make sure you understood what I asked. So she reminds you of someone that you knew from your past.
Okay. I'm sorry. What are we trying to get out of her reminding me of somebody?
I'm trying to establish a relationship question, essentially how you react to her today based on the fact that she reminds you of someone that you used to know.
Well, okay, so what I was going to say was she reminds me of this family, and I feel like she's like possibly a spy or something, but that's not what you're looking for.
I don't think so. Let me find another one for you.
Sure.
That might be clearer here. So let me give you another one. We've established that all of you have worked together. Recently, when you were doing something, a job, whatever, Rook bailed you out, saved your bacon.
Yeah.
What did Rook do that surprised you, that helped you?
She was able to I was being backed into a corner, and she was able to like manage the situation, kind of. She knew the right way of communicating with like this group of police or secret police types that was able to diffuse the situation in order for me to get out. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Rook, are you good with that? You muted.
You mean you don't have mind reading, is what you mean. No, no, essentially, sure. She's good at deception and reading the room and all those things. So sure, she was able to distract them and send them off on a wild goose chase. I think that makes complete sense.
All right. Rook, let me come to you.
Mm-hmm.
And let me ask you, when you first met Deltra, you and she nearly came to blows. What happened? I mean, it got resolved later, but what was the situation that when you first met, it was, a superhero meetup where you're at odds?
I think that we were both on a mission to steal a significant shard. Like we had to get up as separate missions, and we literally were reaching for it at the same time, kind of thing. And it was one of those struggles and a kind of ugly girl fight. And I lost, but I followed her. And I was like, and I think that I just like, I dogged her until I finally ran her down. And then I think she ended up with the crystal, but later on we met up and it turned out that we were just in separate cells at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like I kind of had to shake it off, if that makes any sense. But it infuriated me at the time.
Okay. Does that work for you, Deltra?
Yeah, it's definitely one of those situations where it's like, I grabbed it and then you knocked me over and it went tumbling and you had it for a while and then I like pickpocketed it back from you and like it just like passed back and forth a few times before.
Exactly.
Very
And then
nice.
we're both being pursued at the same time, so we're both doing things to cut the pursuit off while we're pursuing each other, and so.
Oh yeah, a couple of great moments where we have to work together to like throw whoever's like chasing both of us off, and then back to competing over it.
Yeah,
that's great.
Deltra, at some point during a job in the time since you've known Daneric, either through action or a moment of confession, you kind of revealed like a personal secret to Daneric, maybe something you didn't kind of want to give out. What do you think that was? And we'll figure out how Daneric responded to it.
That I blame one of my older brothers for the death of my sister.
Ooh. And like real angry, like that's clearly important to you.
Mm-hmm.
And Daneric, how do you think you reacted to that?
I don't know. I think it didn't hit him in the way you would have thought it would, just because like the recent history of the dwarves. I'm pretty sure everybody knows a brother that they blame for another sibling's death or something. Like there's been a lot of turnover in the dwarven houses.
Yeah.
And so I think he sort of took it in stride more than you were expecting from this like confession secret that leaked out.
Yeah, like
I'm
for
sure
the dwarves, you're like, of course.
you learned to backstab from your siblings. Like that's
Yeah.
That's your
so your
initial
brother
training.
was the one that survived. Good. He sounds useful.
I like that, and it tells us something about the dwarves then, that they have these large families, and that there's a lot of infighting and expectation to murder each other to get ahead. Okay, all right. And Daneric, finally, before you ever met Anka, you had heard a rumor about them. I want you to tell us what that rumor was, and then we'll check with Anka and see if it's true or not. So what do you think you'd heard about Anka, this elf?
I think I'd heard about her like okay, cool. I think there's this like shadow boogeyman faction out there that whether they're real or not, who knows, but they're rumored to be people that are researching trying to disrupt cryptomancy, to like free society from the shackles that all of this and the constraints that the shardscapes and the shard nets have put on everything. And so I think I heard from nice. I think I heard from someone that like I really trusted this tip that that Anka was a part of that group, that she was looking into that research, that she was fighting for these terrorists.
Okay. Anka, do you suppose that's true? Is that just made up, or have you had a connection with these sort of the cult of Cassandra, this group that tries to disrupt the truth?
Oh, absolutely. It is absolutely true. It's not an extensive it is not an extensive membership. She would like to be higher up, but she's definitely associated with them.
Okay. You know some people that are among it. You've done some things for them. You know that they are about spreading misinformation to disrupt essentially the Risk Eater's ability to read the world.
She is definitely a member of a terrorist group.
Okay.
Nice.
Awesome. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take 5, and when we come back, I'm going to hard frame you into a scene. And we may decide later that this is a scene in the past, or we may roll on from this. But in a second, I'm going to throw you all into prison, and that's where we're going to start. So everybody take 5.
Hello, y'all.
All right. So here is my hard frame to start us out. You have worked together as a cell, conducting operations, whether that's meant infiltration of places, whether that's meant stealing things, anything like that. You have carried out these kinds of jobs. And you all were on a job and everything went bad. We won't dwell on the specifics of that. But in some way, shape, or form, you were all captured and essentially knocked out. And when you come to, you will find yourselves, each of you, in a dank stone cell. And our dwarven friend here, I'm going to kind of start with you to kind of describe what's going on. That you come to, you'll immediately realize that your gear is gone, that you are essentially in a ratty sack cloth garment, that you are in this cell. You can look out. There's iron wrought bars, classic fantasy dungeon jail, a locked cell. And you can see across, you will see that Rook is directly across from you. And as you kind of look, you see that the others are in adjacent cells. And within a couple of minutes, as you kind of shake yourself awake and everyone else will start to come to, in this sort of the light of these torch sconces, a guard walks down. You can see human, male, has a chain, a coif, outfit, very basic, and this walking stick that he's using essentially to bang against the cells to do the wake up. You note that he has keyring at his belt. You will note that he has a shard on an amulet around his neck. So that's clearly the guard's communication network. And he walks a pattern down, heads back, and heads off, clearly on a rotation here. The other thing that you will note, Daneric, before I ask you what you're doing, is that in this hallway, as you look and you see the others, you will see that there is, up on the ceiling of the hall, a larger piece of shard. Just sort of right now, out of jumping distance. And your assumption is that is part of the security network. That there's somewhere there's an admin that could cast shard scry to check on things.
Oh, interesting.
Because that's one of the sort of the classic things. So,
Gotcha.
Daneric, what would you do?
I think I'd probably antagonize the guard as he comes by again.
Okay.
Just sort of a thing of like, where the hell am I? Do you know who I am? Do you know how much trouble you're going to be in for locking me up in here? I demand answers right now.
He will do that classic bang on the cell as you get too close kind of thing. If you put your hands on it, he goes to thump your fingers kind of thing.
I want to make him feel angry and threatened. I want to try and like grab his stick as it comes in to thump my hand.
Okay, so this sounds like maybe trying to provide some menace here.
Sure.
Okay, so menace is under presence.
My amazing presence.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you're gonna do
Two
is
10s and 3 6s.
that does look like that is what is going on.
All right.
Pull up the. For some reason, I decided to shut the copy. Here is the roll for your party.
So I've got those selected. Oh, and what would be the difficulty of making this guy mad?
I think just to make him mad and kind of get him upset is going to be a 4. I think that's pretty easy.
Okay. So let's see. On my 10s, I got a 10 and a 6. On my 6s, I got a 1, 4, and 3. So that's 1 botch. So 1 success.
That
no,
is
4. 2 successes.
Yeah. So that's going to be 2 successes. So yeah, he jabs at you. He clearly, like, he's paying attention to you, and takes a moment to smack harder at that those bars. Let me quickly switch over to Deltra. You've kind of come to. You are, let's say, kitty corner across and off to the side of Daneric, and you've woken up and you've seen this situation. What do you think, Delta? What would you do?
I mean, my first thought for getting out of here is to use my chameleon ability to make them think that my cell is now empty when I get the chance.
Absolutely. So with chameleon, we go ahead and let me always have to look and see what we roll for these things here. It is opposed. All right. There's so many systems. All right. So it'll cost you 3 mana to do that, right? That's chameleon's a 3.1?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's very brief, so it has to be like right before they're going to come check my cell.
Okay.
That I would do it.
And let's see. Check. Oh, it's a willpower skill check. Okay. So we'll hang on. You can see that Daneric has kind of got this guard's attention. You're guessing that there are other guards around, but he's definitely sort of holding him there while the rest of you kind of wake up. What about you, Rook?
I think I pretty much stand up and I'm sort of back there and I'm assessing the situation of what we've got. There's the key ring. How far across is it with these cells, or how far away is he then from me if he's over by Daneric's cell?
So he is across the say 5-6 foot hallway across, standing there. So you might be able to touch him if you were to stretch.
Okay, but that would be it. All right. Let's see here. I think the only thing that I'll do is go, geez, can I see what Danarik's doing? Like getting set to do?
I assume that you've worked with Danarik enough before that you know, and by that you mean Delta, right?
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Oh.
2Ds. That you can see that Deltra's, you know that she can blend and conceal herself.
And so I think I'll lean forward and I'll kind of go, hey, he's just coming down off of whatever it is he's on. He's always a little crusty. Don't you worry about him. I go, why don't you just go take a nap in one of the cells like the other guards do? It'll be fine.
And essentially, you're just trying to confuse this guy. Is that the?
I'm just trying to get him to leave Danarik away, and then just add that in there because when he doesn't see Deltra, so it's sort of a deception. Is that I'm clearly talking about something he won't know what it is, but then when she's not there, I want it to flash to that idea of that a guard left there. Does that make any sense?
Okay. Let's have you roll cunning.
Okay.
You are a liar, so you get to ignore one botch.
Oh, good. And then I'm cunning also. Cunning is 4.
I think I might be able to support her action if that's possible.
And how would that work? What should we do?
I'm not sure. I have Bloom Blessing, which takes into account the flora in the environment. So I'm wondering maybe there's some sort of like spore or like fungus, maybe like in the walls that I can release that like kind of make him groggy and susceptible. I don't know how extensive Bloom Blossom is. So.
Yeah, it is an area spell, so you're doing a significant magic that'll be visible if you do that.
Okay, it would be visible. But he's the only guard in here, and so
at the moment, yes.
So the idea with Bloom Blossom is I can create kind of whatever effect I want, but I just have to justify it.
Essentially, there are 3 possible effects there: calm, cloud of debris, and smothering fires. They're based on the presence of flora. There's more description of the spell under the spells tab.
Okay, I'm gonna continue with Rook, and I'll look at that.
Sure. So Rook, you've got a cunning of 4. Mm-hmm. That's pretty good. Let's have you roll.
Okay. It's the ones at the bottom. So what did I need to get?
So I think that's a 6.
Okay. So I still got 2 successes and I got no botches.
Okay. So right now he's got in his mind that it's not going to be unusual for a cell to be empty. Is that the goal here?
It was more like if he notices that the cell is empty, and then that weird thing about some guard sleeping in it is that maybe she left dressed like a guard or looked like a guard when she left. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely. So that he's essentially, you're trying to set it up so that he'll open the thing to check?
Yep. The shard thing so I can get a geolocation on things.
Okay.
Sorry, I was playing indirect. I should remember to go, this is my intent. I apologize. Okay. I am trying to get him to, when he sees that, think that somehow someone dressed as a guard left and to want to do a check so I can at least get that shard geolocation done.
Get that shard geolocation done.
So I can follow back the shard, because if he's using any of this stuff, I can have an idea of what the layout of this place is.
Yeah, if you get a hold of the shard, you can do that. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I could do it remotely. I didn't realize. Okay.
Yeah.
Crazy talk.
That's okay.
Then so it's suspicious of any guards. Like he'll have to take a look at him when he sees him.
Okay.
There we go. I changed it.
So essentially you create, some suspicion there. Deltra, as this guard moves and kind of looks in the cell, are you doing that chameleon thing?
Yes, definitely.
Then I need you to make a willpower roll.
Willpower roll. Okay.
Difficulty is 4.
Did that work? Did those reroll?
It should spin now when they reroll.
Okay, right. I think I have the rounds. Like this was meant. Didn't do anything. What am I doing wrong? All right, I'm gonna create new dice.
Okay.
So I don't it's better for me. Okay. One of those and 4 of those. Let's make
All right. So that looks like 4 successes, 1 botch, so 3 successes. So this guard is walking over, and you see he stops at the cell, and he's like someone ought to be there, and he kind of standing there dumbfounded, like, did one of the guards take off? And he looks like he's just sort of super confused there, and confused enough that he hasn't reached to check in with the shard network. Is that what you wanted to have happen?
I mean, I was hoping he would come in to.
Yeah, then with 3 successes, he does. He opens that door and steps inside. Hasn't 3 successes means he hasn't checked. He hasn't put his hand to his thing, which he ought to have done. It would be good discipline to do that, to have your hand on your communicator. He does not.
Yeah, then I will try to sleight of hand it away from him.
Okay. Let us have you roll, and then I'm going to check in with Anka. So sleight of hand, dexterity is 4. I think because you are completely hidden, difficulty is going to be a 4 on this again. So that's 3. We take off 1, so that's 2 successes. So essentially hit the clasp, and you've got it in your hands. Seem fair?
Yeah, sounds good.
Does her innocent fire off there? Her innocent talent?
Innocent.
I don't think it would apply in this situation.
Sometimes, yeah. So you've got a hold of that. He doesn't have communication with the rest of his team at this point, and he hasn't quite realized that yet.
Yeah, sorry.
Let's go to Anka. You've seen, you're certainly heard and seen Rook and Danerick kind of play good cop, bad cop with this guard. The guard steps over, steps into that cell, and is looking around. You saw Deltra vanish. So is there anything you want to do? Are you setting something up? Are you waiting? What do you want to do?
Yeah. First of all, we're wearing potato sacks right now, right?
Yep.
So I don't have dirt. Dirt's not.
That is correct. It looks like they took all your equipment, including your familiar.
Okay. Just to clarify that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I am. Yeah, there's not much I can do right now. I can. So swarm song is light or noise or detect magic. So is noise just like a general noise, like a buzzing, or can it be more specific?
Let's look at what it says for the spell here. So swarm song on that tab.
Sorry,
Shriekers cry out a cacophony of insect chirps and shriekers drowning out all other sounds.
Yeah. So, I should have read that. I read the first one. I didn't read this, so I apologize.
That's okay.
And then, okay, so, all right. How do you pickpocket?
Pickpocket is sleight of hand.
And where?
Under dexterity. So if he moves out of that cell and comes close, you can probably try and pick his pocket. Yeah.
Oh, I see it. I found it. Okay, yeah, so that's what I'm going to try to do.
Okay.
And
so you wait until he comes out?
Is it possible that, I don't know if this is realistic, like I can use Swarm Song to dampen the sound, or to, like, grabbing the keys out of his pocket, I can, like I'm trying to either create a diversion, or not diversion, like distraction, or like dampen the sound. Yeah, we'll leave it there. Yeah.
So Swarm Song doesn't dampen the sound. It creates a cacophony. It creates a huge amount of noise to cover other sounds.
Right. So that's what I actually, dampen was the wrong word. I apologize. So that's what I meant. Like, I'm just going to try to pick his pocket when he goes by. We'll leave it.
Okay. So when he comes by, we'll hold off on that. And when he comes by, you can try and do that. Let me come back to Daneric and Rook. Is there anything you're doing? You know that he's in the cell. From where you can see Daneric, what has happened, that he stepped into this cell that Deltra was in just a moment ago.
I mean, that's fine. I'm not put off at all. It's probably better than my plan, where I was planning to do the same thing, basically lure him in and get his thing from him, but instead of using a spell, I was going to trade, like, broken noses to get my success, so it probably worked out better. So I have the Shadow Cache spell.
Uh-huh.
Is there any chance that I could have hidden anything before they took us in, and would that have lasted? I suppose I could have looked at the spell in all of this time, answered these questions myself.
Well, let's take a look at it, since it is it's at the bottom of the full column. For retrieving, you know this spell, so yeah, it can anything you want, it can last until you make a new shadows thing. So okay. I will let you have one item in your shadow cache.
Well, I think my most useful small thing to have right now would be my dagger.
Okay.
So I think Rook sees from across the way, like Daneric reaches under his potato sack and comes out with this, like, fancy dagger, and he's, like, lining himself up to try and throw it at the guard if things line up, if that becomes, like, if he starts freaking out, that sort of, like, providing what cover I can for myself.
And I think you've got enough time, given the other distractions, that we won't even have you roll for the materialization. It will happen in enough time to do that. What are you doing, Rook?
I'm going to call the guard's attention back to me. And I'm going to go, "Oh, nappy time for you now, guard." And she goes, "What is it with you guys? Don't they give you cots?"
So essentially you're distracting?
I just want him to turn around and look towards me, if that makes any sense. So that gives everyone else plenty of chance to do whatever they want.
Deltra, are you going to let him step out of out into the hall?
Sure. If he'll turn his back, I'll try to Wonder if I can put the shard of his that I got through Danaric's door. Because I think Danaric's got shard warp, is my thinking. So if you have the shard, you can get out of your cell too, and then we outnumber this guy.
Shard warp is a big magic spell.
Okay.
Big 5-point effect.
I'm sorry, just to clarify, the key in and out of the cells is the shard?
No. Is a ring of keys, and he has the shard.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, the reason we grab the shard first is he can use it to communicate with the rest of the guards, so we gotta make sure he doesn't sound the alarm first.
So what just to give you a sense, since we're kind of walking through this, what Danaric could do if he had the shard, if he had a hold of it, is he could teleport to another instance of the shard. Could teleport to another place where that shard is at.
Okay.
Anybody can do that. Who like if I had the shard, I could do that.
Nope. Danaric has a spell for that.
Okay, gotcha.
Could also try like listening in on the shard network, maybe.
Well, I don't want to distract myself while there's this guard right here. I think I want to deal with him first.
I'd definitely take the shard if you tried to pass it through.
Okay, I'll hand it off to you because just that way he has to open your cell to get it back from you, at least. So it's safer.
Trying to do that surreptitiously.
Yeah.
Okay. You got 3 successes last time, so I think tossing the shard over to Danaric as he steps out of the hall and is distracted by Rook's thing is going to be no problem. Let's come to then Anka. You wanted to, as he steps out in the hallway, as he comes close, you want to try and get those keys off his belt?
I did. I was also just reading Messenger, and that means I can deliver a small object to a person whose true name I know.
Mm-hmm.
So I know my true name.
Right.
Can I deliver the belt? Because an animal comes and does the delivery. Can I have can I combine my sleight of magic, my sleight of hand and Messenger to have a small animal help me pickpocket?
I don't know if that's going to be, you've already got a 4 with the pickpocket there.
Okay.
The sleight of hand.
Okay. All right. That's fine. I'll just pickpocket. So how do I roll?
So what you're going to do is you have a sleight of hand of is that skill. We look at what's above it, and that's dexterity, which is a 4.
Yeah.
So what you're going to roll is 4 d10s and 1 d6.
Okay, what is the 1d6? The 1d6 is because I'm using sleight of hand, just curiously.
Yep. Yeah, because you've got a 4. You always roll 5 dice. Whatever is left over from your skill is a d6.
Okay. All right. There we go. 3, 7, 6, 9, and 2.
Okay.
What was my difficulty?
Difficulty 4 because of the other distractions. So that gives us the 9, the 7, and the 6 are successes. That's 3 of them. And the 1 or a 2 on the d6 is a botch, which takes away 1. So that's still 2 successes.
I didn't get it. I didn't roll a 1.
A 1 or a 2 on the d6 is
a
botch.
1 or a 2 Oh, yeah. I gotcha.
So 2 successes. So you've got the keys before he can even notice.
Okay.
And you've got a hold of those. I think he's going to step out into the hall. The keys are gone. You have a hold of the shard now, Danaric.
I'm sorry. Can you place us so who's across from me and who's...
Sure. Daneric is next to you.
Uh-huh.
Straight across is Deltra.
Uh-huh. And
And then
Teddy
across
Corn.
and down is Rook.
Okay.
Okay.
I will show the keys to the people who are across from me if it's safe to do so. Like if his back is to me, if it's clearly safe.
Sounds good. So Daneric, you've got the shard, and this guy is looking around, and you can tell he's now okay. He's got to check in.
Okay. So shardnet basics. Does me like accessing this shardnet automatically alert other people that I'm there, or only if I start thinking messages?
Only if you actually inject a message into the net. You can listen in without anybody noticing.
Okay. Then I want to listen in and see if there are any like current clear text messages, because just because there's a watcher crystal above us doesn't mean anyone's watching right now.
Right.
So I want to see if there are any messages going around like, oh shit, these guys are robbing that guard blind or whatever.
So you'll pick it up and you will check, and you can see that there's clear text, some clear text general messages and some echoes of previous clear text messages. And it seems to be essentially the clear text seems to be of two forms. Let me get the precise thing here. Essentially, you see that there seems to be Rover 1 checking cells, moving on to cave. Sentry 1, there seems to be some people who are sentries and some people who are rovers, like mobile, and they seem to be sending general clear text about their general positions. There are some encrypted messages in there, though, that there must be a passphrase that the guards must know. Does that seem like fair info?
Yeah. The encrypted ones, are there any going on like real time?
It seems like echo. Like they put, there's an encrypted one you're guessing is probably about a command, general commands or passphrases or something like that.
Okay. Then yeah, I think you see Daneric, like he holds the shard for a minute, like closes his eyes and concentrates, and then he opens them, and Rook you can definitely see, and Daneric isn't sure where Deltra is, so he's not sure if she can see, but he gives this sort of like thumbs up symbol of like, okay, we're clear on the network for the moment.
Rook, what do you do? Are you talking?
No, I was rehearsing.
Okay.
So nothing lost. Oh. So I think the thing is this guy is in here with us and sort of trapped. So I think this is when I reach out and I maze the thing. So I maze essentially the passageway between the cells so he can't get back out.
Essentially, so he'll essentially get the dead end at one end. If he wants to get out, you got him stuck with that maze.
Exactly.
Okay, let's have you roll a willpower check.
Okay, and willpower I have 5 in.
Okay, so just don't roll a whole bunch of ones.
Thank you, Lil, for that helpful thing.
And maze costs you 3 points.
Yes, it will, as soon as I get done casting it. So, the highlight is bulky today. Okay, re-rolling. I got 2 9s.
Okay.
And a 4. So I don't know what the difficulty is. So
so it's a standard difficulty. So a 6 on that. Well, let me make sure here. From maze, is it trivial? So yeah, I think that 6. So you get 2 successes. So that maze will pop up.
Okay.
And I think that we will see him when that happens. He will kind of get that vertigo because he doesn't have the code phrase for it. And will reach to get the shard to indicate that he's been compromised, and suddenly realize that he doesn't have the shard, and he will do that thing where he hits his hand to his keys, realize he doesn't have his keys, and essentially is going to assume a defensive position here. So we've got Deltra with the open door. Let's deal with you first, and then let's check with Anka.
So at this point, I think Delta is assuming that Anka's coming with backup, and I'd rather not like get in a fist fight with this guy.
Okay.
Before he's good and outnumbered. So I'm definitely visible now.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to hold and see what Anka does?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just distraction from Anka, but just kind of holding my hands up, when he turns and spots me.
Okay.
And trying to stall him.
Anka, what are you doing? You have the keys.
I am going to let myself out.
Okay.
And then as I go to engage the guard, I'm going to hand the keys over to whoever's across from me. So just one move, engage the guard and hand the keys out so the next person can let themselves out.
Okay. Do you want to hand that to Rook, who's still locked in, or do you want to hand that to Deltra, whose cell door is still open?
Rook, who's still locked in.
All right. And then you want to engage this guy?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is going to be unarmed melee.
Okay.
That's under strength.
Yeah.
So you're going to roll 2d10 and 3d6.
Okay. Is there, because my style of fighting is acrobatics.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way I can jump up on grab some sort of rafter and kind of come down on him?
Okay.
Yeah. Wrap my legs around his neck type thing and.
Sure. Let's have you do that. Since you've got that talent, let's say it's possible in this. Let's have you roll then acrobatics.
Okay.
That's 4d10 and 1d6.
What's the difficulty?
Difficulty is going to be a 6.
I got 2 successes and a 2, so 1 success.
But the 2 is on the D10, so that's cool.
Okay.
So 2 successes. So you've got 2 successes standing. Now let's have you roll 2d10 and 3d6.
Okay, where did the 3d6 come from?
So you've got a strength of 2. So that's your 2d10. And then the 3d6 are the other part of that 5-die pool.
Okay. What's the difficulty?
Difficulty is a 6.
6. So 2 success. I got 3 successes, a botch, so 2 successes.
Okay. 2 successes. So that's 4 successes. Tell me what that looks like when you take this guy down.
So there's just this bar that kind of goes across the top. That it's probably some sort of plumbing mechanism, and that's where the other shard is hanging from. And I just leap up, grab the bard on either side of the shard, and just as his back is towards me, I just drop down, wrap my legs around his neck. Alignment. Am I cool with killing this guy, or I don't know
These
how?
are, I think these are guards of an evil organization. You could certainly kill them. However,
Yeah.
Killing them reduces your ability to get information.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. Yeah. So I wrap my legs around his neck, and as we fall down to the ground, I'm choking him out.
Okay.
Not killing him.
All right. So we see that maneuver. Now she's not particularly strong, but she does get that advantage and will take this guy down to the ground. His face will go red, essentially, as he's knocked out. Let's come back to Rook and Daneric. Essentially, we can kind of go a little more freely here. This guard is choked out.
Okay. I think that what I would do is unlock myself, hand the keys to Daneric, because I want to get a mind read on this guy so I get a layout of this place.
Absolutely. Let's have you go ahead and pop that open. What does it look like when you do mind read?
I think that in some ways it is literally about that sort of sense of that the mind is an extension of the shard. It's almost that opposite paradigm. So it's almost that she handles his forehead just like you would a shard. Does that make any sense?
Mm-hmm.
So she puts one of her hands behind the back of his head and another one on his forehead, and just kind of like does the whispering for him to tell her what she needs.
Let's have you do a mind read roll. So that's willpower.
Okay, so that's willpower. So that's 5 again. All right. All right, this is my roll. It's terrible, but not awful. So I got a 9, 7, 7, a 5, and a 2.
Okay. So that sounds like 3 successes.
Yes, I will take them.
There, you can take a moment to read. You will kind of see that this dungeon, there's a crypto locked door with a passphrase at the end. There's a cavern out there, a cave. They've got some guard things there that when we get to there, I'll tell you what they are. You know that some of the areas down outside the cave have some mazes, that there are particular guards that know the codes to that. This guy isn't part of that group. There's an elevator that goes up to a castle up top. You're actually on an island.
Yeah.
And you've got a general sense of the layout. There are spread out amongst the people here, maybe a dozen guards total. And because you got the 24 hours, when you go to a place, I'll give you some more information. You can get the passphrase for the guard shard network, though.
Okay. And then that one gate that he does know the pass gate for?
You can get that as well.
Okay, I will take those.
Okay.
So I'll do a quick sketch of the layout and a rundown for my pals.
Okay. What about you, Daneric?
As soon as I'd like to get out of the cell. Let's not
Yes.
forget that.
Okay.
Last one locked in here. I would like to change that. But once that's taken care of, and she says assume you're sharing the key phrase, then yeah, I'm gonna go back into the guard's shardnet and check the most recent echoes. I'm looking for mentions of us, or either by name or like new prisoners, or like why we're here, why we were brought in, any recent encryptions.
So you get 2 things. You'll get the passphrase for the door. That's what's in the major encryption piece there. But the other thing is probably an echo from like that's draining off from a while back. That essentially says unknown incoming prisoners. hold for transfer for 72 hours.
Okay.
So clearly there are other people coming to pick you up, and that they clearly don't know, and they're not particularly aware of your capabilities.
Yeah. So someone knows why we're in here because we were put in here, but it's not like our identities aren't general knowledge yet. So there's some sort of like, we can handle the risk at the moment.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So yeah, you've got out of here. This guard has chainmail and essentially has a staff, and probably has a knife on him as well.
Okay.
Let's come to back to, I'll get character names here. This is going to take a while. Deltra, your camouflage thing worked. Drew his attention. The guard is taken down. What is your next step then?
I guess I will take the guard's uniform since I can alter my appearance. I've got the best chance of actually disguising myself as a guard.
That makes sense. Absolutely. And yeah, you can strip this guy. Where do you want to put the guard then?
In one of our cells.
Okay. Yeah. Just to tie him up with his belt, secure him that way, kind of thing.
Can we put him in a burlap outfit, and could I encrypt his face just to cause a little confusion there?
Yeah, I think that's easy. And I won't have you roll. I'll just have you spend the mana.
Then I guess we'll put him in Anka's cell, because I guess they'd be physically closest to each other, maybe. Or do you think Deltra would be closer body type?
Well, Anka's an elf, so might be a little bit more thinner. Probably Deltra's cell, especially if you kind of put them out of sight. You can judge what the line of sight is on this surveillance crystal.
Cool.
So the four of you can secure this guy. You've gotten the information out of him. You can tuck him into the cell. And you've got the key phrase for getting out through the crypto lock door. Anything else you want to do here?
While we're here, can we, how should we say, can we do something that, like, no, let's just go. I mean, we can essentially try to make it look like there's dark forms in the back of the cells with, heaping up some straw and stuff. But I can't really afford to take off my burlap outfit quite yet. So
right.
Later on, perhaps.
Let's give the staff to Anka, the pole vaulter. And yeah, I guess
I was going to say, if she would take Anka would take the burlap sack off, so for freedom of movement, and she doesn't care that she's walking around in her underwear.
Okay.
Unless everybody thinks she should keep it on in order to as a disguise, but yeah, so she'll just walk around in her underwear. Yeah.
Okay. So they hand you the staff, and you can move down the hallway. It doesn't look like any of the other cells here are occupied. And you'll get to these this fortified, very clearly dwarven built door, and no handle, no keyhole, just a single exposed shard that essentially you touch and do the code phrase into, and the mechanism will activate. And
as we get up to the door, I will tell everyone, like, as far as I can tell, we're clear on the guards network, but we do need to watch out for these watching crystals. I don't know if maybe their security Overwatch has a different network. It depends on how well guarded this prison is.
You touch that.
Yeah.
Go,
Sorry,
please.
once we raise the alarm, that would be when they become our real enemy.
So you will open this door. It will come open. You hear that click. You'll pull that door open, and you walk a little ways into what is clearly a cavern. And I'm going to describe to you what you're going to see in here. Rook will have already told you, because she's read his memories, what's here. So you are prepared for what you're coming across. You will come out to this cavern. It's classic stalactites, stalagmites. I don't know which is which, but there we go. And the cavern opens up again, dimly lit, but here we can actually see that there are like magical gems and things in the ceiling that are giving off some light. So it's that kind of bluish glow down here. You will see that there are 3 hallways that go off from here. And that Rook knows that there are some guards down a couple of those. There is a elevator, essentially a big dwarven-made elevator that goes up. The actual pad for it is the sort of the thing is up a way, so it's not immediately accessible to go up it. It is there. All of that is interesting, but it's not what really draws your attention. Because you will see, sort of seated by the elevator, is an ogre. And it is sitting there kind of glassy-eyed, and you can see that there is a big mechanical thing on the back of its neck. And what Rook will know is that is a behavioral control that the crypto admin has control of. That the crypto admin can change its state. That there is a crystal inside of that thing that can give it essentially a command phrase to change its state from sleeping to feeding to angry. But now, it is just seated there. There is another one of those watch crystals, essentially the big scrying crystals that is mounted to the cave ceiling right now.
Rook, do you know where our, like, I'm whispering this to her so as to not disturb the ogre. Rook, do you know where our gear is kept?
I assume I have some sense of it. Is it down one of these corridors?
No, it's actually upstairs.
It's upstairs. We got to go up the elevator.
Okay. If everybody's cool with this, I think we should free that ogre so that it can create whatever havoc it needs to create while we're going up.
That seems like an awesome idea, provided that we're at least 25 yards above it when this happens. She sort of stops and goes, because I really don't want to be the first thing it strangles. Just me. If you want to do it, though, by all means, just let me get into that elevator and up a ways, okay?
Absolutely. Anybody else have any thoughts?
It's a strong distraction if we could figure out how to do something like that, but I also fear being squished to death in my underwear.
I'm at my happiest in my underwear.
I know if we're gonna turn an ogre loose on the guards, rethinking my thought of disguising myself as a guard.
I think the general plan is to turn the ogre loose on whatever the ogre sees.
What do we know about these behavioral things? Is it just a matter of popping that crystal out, or is this going to be like some sort of thing that's super dangerous? Is it going to set off alarms? The crypto administrator would get some indicator at some point, I assume.
So the crypto administrator, one of the things is you're probably staying in the shadows because you expect that he's probably cycling through some shard scrying in the different areas. Can't do it all the time because it does take mana to do it. Probably does check in on the ogre's status from time to time. That doesn't cost mana. Someone could attempt to get that shard crystal out of the mechanism, climb up on the ogre and try and get that out of it. I'm not sure you're not sure what happens at that point.
Look, we've got our own sort of disguised crypto going on right now. We're just a prisoner transfer. That's all that's happening. If we can keep it quiet, if we can keep it smooth, even if they see us, we're just a transfer. Got a guard and 3 prisoners.
All right. Just putting out a really good idea.
Yeah, maybe that's our plan B. Desperate times, more desperate measures.
It's real good as far as chaos goes, but yeah, let's see if Smooth can get us out first.
So you want to try and stealth across over to the elevator, or you want to try and, hey, we are doing this transfer, fly casual.
Fly casual is stealthy in this situation.
Okay.
For sneaking, I mean, that'd be obvious if someone was looking.
Well, then I think that I want someone, and I think this is going to be Deltra, to make a performance check.
Performance?
Does that seem fair, Deltra? Since you are the one with the guard uniform?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay. So I think right now this is difficulty 6.
Okay, so
I just want to say, if we're doing that, I probably wouldn't have taken off the guard uniform. I wouldn't be walking around naked if we're sneaking around, like pretending we're, yeah.
Sure.
So that is 1 success total, I think.
Okay. So you will keep people in line. You know, you do the and push someone to get that, and you will move over to this elevator mechanism. Yeah, you can see that the ogre just kind of, when it's seated there. And there probably is a moment though when you see the ogre kind of stop, and the head actually kind of turns and looks and watches you for a second. Who has the shard, the guard shard?
Deltra?
Deltra, you will hear over the network, encrypted with the passphrase, and you know it now. You hear, Rover 1, what's going on? They clearly think that you're Rover 1.
Yeah.
I have a ShardNet question real quick.
Sure, absolutely.
So if she were to respond right now, would they like hear it in her female voice, or would they receive it as like more of a text thing that's blank of
They receive it more as
identity?
a text thing. There's no voice or vocal intonation or anything like that.
Interesting. Okay.
Um. Yeah, I mean, so I think I'm gonna try to respond and just say, I know that we are set to be transferred in 72 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got some like specific information I could, prisoner transfer has been moved up from 17 hours to immediate. Someone's in a hurry to talk to these guys, apparently.
Okay. This is, the encryption. So it's a trusted message for them when you encrypt it using the passphrase. But it's still going to be a charm check, I think.
Charm. That's what was the difficulty?
6.
6. Okay, so then that's 2 successes.
2 successes. So the you'll get the message back from the crypto admin. Will say, okay, dispatching rovers to meet you up top.
Great.
And we'll say, I will dispatch someone to operate the elevator down. And certainly you are going to kind of move over to the elevator and wait there?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think this way at least we'll have the drop on them whenever this deception falls apart.
Then you will all move there. And there's that bit where we probably see the camera go around to each of you as you're waiting, the little beads of sweat, you're not sure whether the crypto admin is still looking through the ogre or not. But you will see come out of one of these hallways one of these guards essentially comes out of what appears to be the let me get what this is here because I've got it named. The Western Path. They come out of that hall, and it looks like they're going to head over to the Eastern Path, and looks like they're going to turn the elevator on for you.
Is the ogre still watching us, or is it like standing down?
It's still sitting there. You expect that the crypto admin's probably checking in from time to time since something's happening. And the guard will stop and will say, "Are they coming in soon?" And says this out loud because you're in that cave.
Says it to me?
Yeah. Are they coming in soon?
Yep.
Okay. Says, well, all right, because they haven't taken the field down, so, and he will continue on and heads down this other corridor. Probably another minute of waiting, and then he very clearly hits the elevator. And when the elevator comes down, it comes down like just this massive steel plate comes boom down, actually shakes the dirt, makes a horrible clanging sound here. There is nothing subtle about this elevator.
While he's distracted and going to do that, there's this big noise of this thing coming down. I'm going to turn quickly to Rook and just give her like the eyebrow. Field? Muted.
Take a drink.
I said, and do I know what he's talking about?
You know, it's because this guy hasn't, you know, you got the last 24 hours, but like you recall when he was coming down that there was some kind of like maybe electrical field, like our lightning field up top. Probably to catch anybody flying in or flying out.
Okay.
But this is like a general tactic, right? This isn't some weird. There's a field up there, right? I mean, this is like
that's a pretty sophisticated thing to have that kind of thing. So it does strike her as unusual, but yeah, I mean, you definitely know it's a field to prevent flyers.
Okay.
But it is something that is used. It's like it is something that's known. Okay.
Yeah. So the elevator has come down, and the crypto admin comes over Rover 1 and says, escort assembled, pile them on, and we'll say I'll instruct Rover 3 to send you up.
All right.
Okay. And you will know, Sherry, you will know the passphrase since you have the guard's memory for activating the elevator once you get in.
Okay.
Okay. So this, guys, the four of you get on this elevator and it will start going up. And you will get out of the crypto admin's line of sight here during a portion of this travel.
Okay. So what next?
Once we realize that we're doing this subterfuge, you were probably holding the spear, right? I mean,
yeah.
So I maybe because we're no, you're just going to keep holding the spear at this point, but like I need the spear back as soon as there's conflict.
Do we want to just jump our escort once we get up here? I mean, getting past that ogre and getting up the elevator, that was a pretty good accomplishment, but I don't know how long we can keep up this deception.
We have to see if we're watched.
Yeah, and if we can maintain at least long enough to get back to our belongings, we'll be in a better situation to start causing chaos.
So my question is for Rook. Rook, are our belongings immediately when we land, like in that room, or do we have to travel somewhere else?
If memory holds, then you're gonna have to travel to get to the items.
So we need to keep up the subterfuge until we get to the items, I think. And I mean, unless you guys think we can handle it without it. I'm good either way.
Plan B is always chaos, but yeah, if we can, that'd be best.
Well, I always suggest we start at plan B, but okay.
So this will elevator will come up. You can hear the heavy chains of it. It grinds. Again, nothing subtle about dwarven engineering. So it's loud. It's noisy as you go up. Deltra?
Am I going to be able to, as my normal appearing self, can I pass as a guard, or should I be disguising myself?
You will definitely need to glamour yourself up.
Okay. Let's do that.
Okay. Then it's just a simple willpower roll.
Simple meaning difficulty 4?
No. Challenging means difficulty 6, but there's no opposition.
Okay. So that's 3 successes.
Ooh. So you can make yourself, physical features, male, look like this guy.
Yeah. So, yeah. Instead of like this guard uniform just like hanging off me, all of a sudden I like fill it out and yeah.
Do you think it did when we see this on screen? Is it like do we see this sort of weird transformation, or is it a flash and you look?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a flash. Yes.
Okay. You will come up and rise up into this tall cylindrical room. You can see that there are wide iron grated windows here. You can see a little bit of grayish daylight comes in here. You can hear the sound of the waves breaking against rocks down below. And you can also hear the crackle of that lightning field active and going on up there. And it is raining, and the torch sconces in here can barely keep up with the rain. So the light is that sort of weird dim light. And there are 4 guards waiting there to escort. And because it's dark and such, they kind of nod to you as you come in, and they will each go to grab one of them. So 3 of the guards go to grab the elbows of them, and the last guard says, "Where's the 4th?"
Can I ask real quick?
Sure.
Establish a modus operandi that whenever we go into an environment that I don't know, I immediately check it out, looking for places where I can climb onto the walls and use.
That seems fair.
So that's just like a standard thing that my character always does.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Sorry.
So Delta, he says, "Where's the 4th?"
Down in her cell. Guess these 3 were the important ones.
Okay. And they'll start walking you down these stairs, and they'll walk you down. You can see the tall walls of this fortress. Other parapets here. It's definitely a bigger castle than the number of staff that are here, so it's very lightly manned. And they will cross into a chamber that comes out of here, and they're going to clearly continue to take you on sort of downstairs. But Rook, you see that the chamber that they come through is the chamber with all of your gear in it. There's a big crypto-locked chest there. You're muted.
And I make the gesture to it, like that there's where our stuff is.
So what what would it take to get past this lock? Do we have?
You will need the passcode, which is probably the crypto admin has.
Can the chest or the lock be smashed?
I don't think you have anything big enough to right now to at least at this moment to smash the iron wrought chest.
What about the guard's head? Okay, just kidding. Sorry.
So this is a crypto admin that would be the only one that would have this stuff?
For this kind of thing, it's probably the crypto admin that did the locking on this.
Which of us have something that would also have to be transferred with us? Let's see here. I'm just looking, like, essentially it would be a thing of asking that something also, like one of our items had to be transferred as well so we could get it open. Does that make any sense? It would be to make the request we're supposed to move some papers too.
Yeah, but if we ask for that, then the request is going to go to the admin, and if we push, I mean,
the only thing I think that would be reasonable in that case would be actually the familiar.
Wait, so what is... I'm a little confused as to what the question was. And
basically, we're trying to figure out a way to, like, say that along with our release, whoever's getting us is demanding evidence or this thing be brought along with us out of the chest.
okay, so I would demand it, or somebody else would.
Oh, presumably the guard would. Our fake guard would fake saying that the fake person getting us out said it.
Part of my fake orders were to bring.
Yeah.
The other possibility you have, Sherry, is you do have psychometry, which, given that this thing has been passcoded not too long ago, you could attempt psychometry to try and read the passphrase off of it. You're muted.
That means we have to be allowed to go over to it.
Yes.
How watched are we right now?
Well, they're moving you through this room.
Okay, so it's just this room? And do we see a big shard up over it?
Yeah, there's probably the standard communication shard there.
I kind of do the group throat clear that says, anytime you want to start rabble rousing, she's ready, and that's about it. But yeah, if we can get, or do we don't have any way to communicate privately otherwise, right?
No, they have your shard. Your shard's there.
All right, so someone has to do something to slow us down in here. So she'll twist her ankle and fall down. And I mean, I know she'll get dragged, but
okay,
I will start that with that.
So this guy's at your elbow, and you do the twist and the fall down, and he brings up his hand to backhand you.
All right.
And pull you to your feet. What do you want to do? I'm going to check with our fake guard here first.
I think I kind of the staff that I've got, I kind of like I'm reaching it towards Anka and kind of shrugging like, is it go time?
I take the staff and I wrap, so he's got me by my elbow.
Yep.
And I wrap my arm around his arm so that like I've got his shoulder and the staff in one hand, and I'm turning and I'm going to run up the wall, and just like kind of do this kind of improvised pile driver type thing.
Okay. So I think that to start this, to get a hold of him, to do that, I'm going to have you do that.
Sleight of hand?
No. Well, okay. Yeah, let's do sleight of hand to get a hold of him, to get control of him. Let's deal with that first.
Okay. So that's 4 because my dexterity is 4.
Yep. So you can roll 4d10.
And is that it, or?
And 1d6.
Okay.
And your difficulty is a 6.
10, 2, 3, 9, 3. So 2 successes.
2 successes. So yeah, you get a hold of the staff, and you will lock this guy, and you are running him towards the wall right now.
Yep.
What are you doing, Danerick?
Basically, I'm hoping that the guy holding my elbow is just sort of holding loosely, and I want to lunge forward and like get my dagger out in the way of that guy's backhand coming towards Rook.
Okay. So that sounds like a precise melee.
Nice.
Let's have you roll that. Difficulty is 6.
The thing. I ignore 1 botch. Nice. So, 1, 2. All of you, please select just a little bit. There we go. You said 6.
Yeah, difficulty 6.
4 successes.
So, where does it go into him that kills him?
I think it actually it catches him right through the palm, and I just continue the force sideways into the side of his neck.
Okay. Boom. He's down. Rook, what do you do?
I think that my thing is, once he's down, I'm grabbing shardstones off these guys so they can't contact anyone easily.
So that's going to be sleight of hand.
Okay, so that's 3 for me.
Yes.
All right. I am not the bestest at it, but I will try.
Okay.
Here's my 3. So you know which ones. Sorry.
Difficulty 6.
Aw. Okay. Okay. I got 3 successes.
3 successes.
And 1 bot. So 2 successes.
2 successes. So I think you can grab 2 of the 4 of these. Does that seem fair?
Yes, it is more than fair.
Yank, grab those off. Let's check in with God Almighty, Deltra, and then we're gonna do Anka's body slam. Deltra, what do you do?
I guess there's one guard with a shard still.
Yeah, because the
Unoccupied.
other guard is dead from the knife to the neck.
So I guess we better grab that.
Okay, sleight of hand. And I know how difficult it is to roll with a cat in your lap. Sometimes the cat will get up by Sherry's mic and just purr into it.
What do we get here? Oops. 2 successes, I think?
2 successes. Oh, yeah.
6 difficulty, right?
Yeah. You grab and shove this guy back, and you have now all of the shards off these guards. They can't communicate with the main network here. So, Anka, let's have you roll your acrobatics.
Okay. So that's 4 plus 1.
Plus 1d6. Difficulty is a 6.
1 success.
1 success. And then let's have you roll your strength roll. You're going to get an additional success.
So that's 2. That's 2 plus 1, or just 2?
2 plus 3d6. 2d10, 3d6.
Okay, somebody keeps messing with it, so I can't roll. Somebody keeps messing with the... Every time I... Okay. I'm sorry, 2d10 plus 3d6.
Yep.
Yeah. So 6, the difficulty 6?
Difficulty 6.
1 success, but 1 botch, so no successes.
Okay. So I would say.
Oh no, but I had one success
Right.
because I had one hangover, so I did have one success.
So I think we see you kind of do that flip, and he's a little more sturdy than you expected. So right now the effect is you do knock the wind out of him, and he is on the ground, and he will kind of come crashing down. So I would say that the effect is he can't even get to his shard to be able to alert. Does that seem fair?
Yeah, and if I can, I'm going to rip it off his neck. Or however.
I don't think so with one success.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's come back to Daneric. You've just knifed this guy?
Yeah, so I guess I still have the one that was holding me at my back. And even if they don't have their shards, he still has all of the other equipment he's carrying on him. I'm the most armed, sort of, so I guess I'll engage him.
Okay, yeah, you have your surprise round. I'm going to have them go after you guys go this time. So yeah, let's have you do your attack.
All right. Yeah, I'm. So are they wearing armor? What are they clothed in?
Right now, I'm going to say leather. So basic stuff. Essentially, if you do with leather armor like they have on, if you just do 1 point, they'll ignore that. If you do more, it all goes through.
So yeah, it'd be precise melee. I think of trying to go in and find like chinks and undefended gaps, sort of thing.
Okay, let's have you roll that.
Oh, and I did have a question about my dagger. It has a quality of distracting feature, flat square tip. What does distracting feature mean, and what? I just don't get that.
So this game has descriptor tags for equipment, and many of them are cosmetic. And so you have a very weird and distinctive dagger that has a square tip.
Would people actually get distracted by it, or what is that distracting feature?
It is much like the fact that some of the armor descriptors are risque.
Okay.
Means you can use it as a screwdriver as well.
Yes, it's an odd detail of the system.
Fair enough. I'm into it. Then yeah, okay. Precise melee. You guys. I know. I'm trying. You don't have to tell me. Let's see. I get to ignore that botch. Difficulty was 6.
Yeah.
Oh, good thing I get to ignore it, because that leaves me with 1 success.
Okay. So with your dagger, essentially, you hit this guy, and you are locked up with him. Okay. And essentially, you are wrestling him right now. Rook, what are you doing? Muted.
I know Daneric is right next to me, so essentially what I'm going to do is my damnedest to break the deadlock for his next thing. So I think, let's see here. What can I do that would be a pain in the ass? Yeah, I think I'm going to do precise melee. The other guard that has been killed has let go of his staff, and I'm going to bring that down on his foot.
Okay.
Essentially. So how's that?
That seems fair.
All right.
Difficulty is a 6.
Okay. I am all for that. Let's see here. I apologize. My selection, the control key thing is like not always helpful. Okay, here we go. Reroll on the top group. So I got 2 successes.
Okay. So that will do 2 more damage. So this guy, he is staggered, essentially. Got that knife on him. You will whack him upside the head, and he is staggered. So it's the 2 of you on him. There's one that's locked up with Anka, and there's one that's not as fully engaged. So, Delta, what do you want to do?
I'm gonna stab that guy.
Okay. Let's have you do that. So, essentially, grab out their dagger and hit him with it?
Yeah, this is probably the dagger from the original guard whose uniform I'm wearing, I guess.
Absolutely. So that'll be precise melee.
Okay. 3 successes.
3 successes. So yeah, what does it look like when I mean, because that's a good stab on this guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think just the confusion of one of their own attacking them. They hadn't quite put together exactly what's going on yet.
Against the wall, drive that in. He's trying to go for his weapons. You know, you see one hand where his shard ought to be, and he is in very bad shape. Anka, you've got this guy on his back. He's trying to get up. What do you want to do?
So I'm realizing that Anka is essentially the Cryptomancer of a WWE wrestler.
Apparently.
Because her pole vaulter and death from above and whatnot. So what she's doing is she's using the pole vault to kind of lift herself up and then do like a elbow thing, like right into his throat, like just
down. You do the people's elbow.
Yeah.
Throat. Okay. Let's have you do the acrobatics.
Okay, so that's 4 and 1.
4 and 1.
1, 2, 3, 2 successes.
2 successes, and then roll your brute melee.
And that's 2 and 4.
2 and 3.
2 and 3. So that's 1. 0 successes.
Still 2 successes, and I think that you'll come crashing down on him.
Yeah.
And so tell me, Daneric, how do you finish this guy off? You did 3 to him. That's a mortal wound, so he's bleeding out. So he can't really act after you've stabbed him that hard. You would also be in trouble if you got stabbed that hard. So what do you do? How do you finish him off?
I think I just like flip the dagger around the other way and then punch him in the side of the head with the pommel.
And Rook, what does it look like when you psychometry this box?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that to her, it's that whole thing is that she has that whole sense of the shard stone. So she kind of does that thing where she sort of lays herself down on it and puts her hand on the back and the other one on the top. It's very much that gesture is super important to her. So it's kind of a big case and she looks super awkward, but it's that necessary thing of having to cradle and bring a sort of like her sensory aura around it in order to do that. And then she sort of pulls out and kind of remembers it being said.
Yeah, you get the crypto admin, you hear him say the passphrase into this, and you can repeat it, pop the lock, and you can get all your stuff out of there.
Yes, my risque armor.
Anka, do you suppose that your familiar is pleasantly asleep there, or is it kind of a screeching a ball of fury at this point?
This is what I look like now.
Okay.
Sorry, I was doing that real quick. What is your
So what do you imagine the state of your familiar is when you pop this box and get the equipment out of here?
Yeah, he leaps out and I almost picture like a sloth looking type of creature.
Okay.
Only not that slow. Yeah, he leaps and wraps his arms around my neck, his arms and legs around my neck, and just kind of is like heaving, like I have this How do I stop screen sharing? Sorry.
There should be a thing that'll let you do it. Sometimes it will get stuck.
Anyways, it's like I have this heaving mound of flesh and fur on my neck as it's like just loves being back with me, and it was just terrified. So and we have this great relationship, like this very like oh, I'm like burying my head and nuzzling him, and it's like, you know, it's like, oh, finally I can breathe.
You like your goblin probably more than you like people. Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Deltra, since we're kind of at time here, tell me what is, I mean, you're the kind of chameleon master disguise. What is the thing that the trick that you do to essentially get the lightning field down and so you guys can get on these gigafids and get out of here?
Let's see. Well, I've got my infiltration tools, so I imagine, let's see, what kind of device in there that, yeah, so I guess we get to whatever the field generator is, and I think it's kind of hardened. It's secured. It's not easy to, like, you know, there's no just like simple off switch to power it down. So I think what's the tool? I think it's like an air bladder that we're able to like feed into like a seam on a panel, and then like inflate, and then like there's a thing you turn to like then push the air into that eventually pops the panel open. So we're able to get in there and you know, destroy the mechanisms.
Yeah, it's not that you go to the crystals or do any hacking. It's a brute force. Let's break these lightning towers so they can't use them thing. And we probably get a little montage of you guys running over to the Gigafid stables. Probably by this point we're hearing some kind of alarm from the crypto admin. But we will see you all hit the Gigafids and take off into the rainy night. And I think that's where I want to stop today since we're almost at time. Sherry.
Well, I want to add one thing.
Sure.
And we see the orc come up, like they've loosed him to like find us up here. And so as we're flying away on the Gigafid, I think Deltra is going to like crossbow that crystal in the back of its behavioral helmet.
Does that seem fair, Deltra? Okay. Probably see that. We probably hear the roar as that shatters, and we see the guards run up and then run away, and as they begin to lock down areas.
Can I add one thing real quick?
Yeah.
I think Denric's sort of like fascinated with crypto stuff and enjoys the artistry of it. Could I steal that chest? Is it like huge or cumbersome or whatever?
Have all your stuff in it. You could drag it with you. I would love that as a detail that you were dragging this chest with you over to the Gigafid.
If I think the Gigafid could carry it, yeah, I
would.
Yeah, these are huge. Try to.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, totally.
Is it one Gigafid per person, or are we all on one?
I'm assuming that you would.
Could you have shoved it into a shadow? Could you have shadowed it?
Yeah, is my cache big enough for that?
Let's take a look. Shadow cache. Oh,
I added the Worldwide Wrestling Sasha Banks image.
Absolutely.
Beneath my character.
Yeah, you can fit it into a shadow.
Yeah, totally cool. Thank you.
Yeah. And we see you pushing it into a shadowy corner, and it vanishes into there. We're gonna stop there. Usually with multi-session, if we're going to do debriefs, I do that after the second session, after we had a chance to play. We'll start out next time with you in a city, in a patron, sometime later, and we'll go on from there. Does that sound okay, everybody?
Excellent. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. If you have questions or anything, feel free to send those during the week. And I will give you some EAPs for advancement. There's since you get talent points to buy things with, and we'll talk about that at the beginning of next session.
Cool.
So I'm going to stop the broadcast because it is super dry in the house and my throat is going.